Welcome to today's Breakfast Club session. My name is Pamela Pacheco, and I have the absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege of being your host on this beautiful Thursday morning. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us once again, welcome home. I remember when I first embarked on entrepreneurship a dozen years ago, I was looking forward to these type of morning mentorship calls, not only for the information I was going to receive, but for the inspiration I was going to receive. How you start your day sets the tone for your day. So kudos to each and every single one of you guys that decided to start your morning off with some fire this morning, with some positivity. And I'm so excited. And I know you guys are like, man, this is not your usual time. And as always, we are grateful. Our Breakfast Club call sessions are brought to you by Chosen Global, the home of the Unplugged with Pam podcast. So if you are tuning in for the first time and you want to stay connected, make sure you go and follow the channel. We are live streaming right now across YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all of the socials. And it's interesting because today I actually had to change the time because we had our business leaders meeting for church. And interestingly enough, it just went perfect because the topic we're going to talk about today is faith. And I believe that faith is not only the key ingredient to life, but it is the key ingredient in entrepreneurship. And not only having belief in God, but belief in yourself, belief in your vision, in your idea, in the business, in the dream. And I believe that entrepreneurship requires faith, whether people admit it or not. Before there's money, before there's any type of evidentiary for support, before there's any type of support from family, from friends, from peers, there's belief. And belief in an idea, belief in the vision, belief in what you see in your spirit, that it can actually exist in real life, what it is that you believe in your mind, what it is that your dreams, all of those things. And for me, faith has always been the foundation. Faith in God, faith in myself, faith in the vision. Before I ever got to the place in entrepreneurship that I made $1, I had to have an unwavering belief in myself. I remember being a commercial banker over a dozen years ago. And I was in entrepreneurship when it wasn't cool. It was not trending. Affiliate marketing really wasn't a thing. And I remember getting into the industry of direct sales as a commercial banker, having an MBA in international business and finance, coming from a very successful household where my mother was a lawyer, my dad is still a doctor in the Dominican Republic. And I was going against not only the culture, I was going against the grain, I was going against tradition, I was going against values, all of these things. But one thing that I always had was faith. And I'm so grateful that I had supportive parents that no matter what I was doing, especially my mom, she was my number one supporter, my number one fan, my number one business partner. And I always understood that I had to have faith. And not only did I have to have faith in God and faith in my idea and my vision and the dream, but I had to have faith in myself, because what I did understand was if I focused on the disbelief that people had, if I focused on the lack of trust that people had in business, in entrepreneurship, that's what was going to grow. However, I chose to focus on what it was that I wanted to expand, because whatever you focus on the longest, it becomes the strongest. As you always hear me say, where attention goes, energy truly does flow. And what you focus on truly does expand. And if your focus is shaky, let's be honest, so will your execution. And I believe that faith is the first investment. Every entrepreneur makes an investment before they ever make $1. Now, also, why is that? Because these are daily deposits that you are making in, right? You guys always hear me talk about the 5S, and faith is my firm foundation. And not only is it only praying. I believe praying is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God, sitting in my quiet space with him, sitting in my secret place with him. It's interesting because um, I was just at a retreat, and it was a spiritual encounter. And one of the things that hit me was not only taking the time to pray and to meditate and to read my Bible and meditate on the word of God and let my mind be still, but it was also having an extra space to my left, an extra space, two spaces to my right, where God is one side, right? Jesus is in another, and the Holy Spirit is in another. And that is just what I believe in. And I'm not here to impose my faithful belief upon you, but it's knowing that I am not only making daily deposits in my faith by praying and reading, but also abiding in God and just taking the time to be still and actually listening. And I believe that as an entrepreneur, that is something that you absolutely have to have, because before you even make that investment in money, that investment that it takes to start a business, whether you are spending a few $100s, whether you are spending a few $1,000s, you invest in belief. You invest in belief before results even exist. You invest in obedience before you even get confirmation, because you understand that if God gave you a dream, if he gave you a vision, he is going to bring it to fruition. You also are trusting, right? You're trusting in something that you probably have not seen tangible as of yet. You probably just saw it in your dreams, right? But this is something that is important because you're investing in time and energy and effort before anyone claps for you. And that is truly having faith. Entrepreneurship is walking before you see the full staircase. It's taking the first step. It's taking that first step when you get that nudge in your heart, when you get that nudge in your spirit. And the reality is that most people quit, not because they are incapable, but because they want proof before they can actually move. And what faith says is, I'll move first. And that's why it's equally as important for you to have belief in God and trusting the source, because faith in entrepreneurship is not just asking God to bless what it is that you're building. It's also allowing God to shape how you build it, how you go about it. What exactly does every detail look? Who is a part of that? What type of business organization? A lot of people sometimes think, I'm building a business and I need people, and I need to make sure that I have all of the tools and all of the resources. And you hear me say all the time, and if you're tuning in for the first time, your brand and your business is way beyond just your logo. It's way beyond the aesthetics, is way beyond how you show up every day, but it's also understanding that what you're building is bigger than what you can actually see at the moment. And it's also to allowing God to shape how it is that you're actually building it, because trust doesn't necessarily eliminate preparation. In fact, it says that because you're praying, you are preparing. Because you're trusting that it is going to come to fruition, you are in the season of preparation. And trust does not eliminate responsibility, because the reality is that God is a God of order, a God of diligence, a God of stewardship, but he's also a God of clarity, not a God of confusion. So when you're talking about committing to your work, you're also committing to do it with excellence. God gave us a spirit of faith, not a spirit of fear. And that's why two thoughts can never coexist in the mind at the same time. And it's equally as important, no matter what it is that you're building, whether you're building a business, building a brand, building a community, right? Building your career, you have to have faith. And specifically when it comes to entrepreneurship, you got to understand faith is not passive. Faith partners with action each and every single day, because faith without works is dead. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my years of entrepreneurship, is to treat it like a business so that it can pay you like one. But faith is rewarded in obedience. And when you are obedient to that faith, when you are obedient to what it is that God put in your heart, you got to do the work. And here's what I always say: work works. Work works. You want something to pay you like a business, you have to treat it like a business. And it's also knowing that you're trusting God to bring to fruition what it is that you're doing, but you can't be the person that's like, well, I'm just going to be passive and I'm going to wait on God to pay my bills without doing a thing, without making a call. without sending out the emails, without reaching out to the people that you need to reach out to. And sometimes before you even prospect, preparation means that you're being a good steward, right? Belief in yourself is stewardship, because a lot of people think, oh, I got to be humble. Doubting yourselves is not humility. It's sometimes really and truly just fear. And fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. It can tell you forget everything and run, or it could tell you forget everything and rise. See, when I first embarked upon entrepreneurship as a commercial banker, I had a six-figure salary. I was living on a condo on the beach in Miami. Life was good as I knew it. But good is the enemy of great. And I also understood that when I saw my mom get sick the first time, it scared me to the point that I was like, no more. No more am I not going to take action on my dreams. No more am I going to settle for mediocrity. No more am I going to let the man, and not necessarily a man, right? But the man in the sense of the corporate world, because when I saw her get laid off with the credentials that she had, with the experience that she had, with the background that she had, I said, if they can do that to her, they can do that to anybody. Nothing is secure but maximum security. There's nothing really safe. And that is why I'm going to bet on entrepreneurship every single time. And here is what I've learned and why I'm such an advocate for not only entrepreneurship but stewardship. Because it's, if you give them the power to feed you, you are always going to give them the power to starve you. And if God trusted you with the vision, with the idea, with the calling, then believing in yourself isn't arrogance, my dear friends. It is absolutely stewardship. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to trust that you're capable of learning, that you're capable of growing, and more than anything, that you're capable of leading. A lot of people throw around this word leadership, and leadership means exactly that. You're leading your ship, whether that be at home, whether that be in the marketplace, as business owners, as entrepreneurs. It is a sacred calling over your life. And when you understand that you have to be a good steward of these dreams, a good steward of the vision that got put into your life, you're going to get it until you're going to keep going until that vision comes to fruition, until whatever that goal is that you have, it's going to come accomplished. And here's also what I've also learned. It's important, as you're being a good steward, to give yourself grace, because at certain season in your life, certain things are going to take precedence. And that's why it's truly important for you to spend time with God in that secret place, for you to know what your season of entrepreneurship looks like, where it is that God wants you to be, where it is that you are going to be at your highest and best use, where it is that He is calling you, that your gifts are making room for you in. Because every next season, every next level, it will definitely require a next level and a different version of you. So when I say, making sure that you are a good steward, it's also knowing that self-doubt doesn't mean that you're unqualified. It usually means that you're stretching. There's been so many seasons that I'm like, oh my goodness, God, like, are you sure this is what you want me to do? Because entrepreneurship is not for the weak. And this is why you have to have faith. A lot of people always say, what's the best thing about being your own boss? That you're your own boss. What's the worst thing about being your own boss? That you're your own boss. Because stewardship is also saying, hey, I'm going to be a good steward of my time. I'm going to be a good steward of my resources. I am going to be a good steward of everything. And resources, a lot of people think sometimes it's just, financial resources. No, it's also saying I'm going to be a good steward of the education that is being afforded to me. And in my case, that I paid for, right? Uh, Hundreds of thousands of dollars for the personal development that I've invested in, multiple six figures over the last 12 years, being a good steward of the books of the knowledge that I've acquired from personal development events, from the books that I've read, from all of these things. So it's also knowing that you have been prepared for such a time as this. And it's, if you are in a season that you're like, I don't know what it is that it's going to look like tomorrow. Guess what? Good. You're not supposed to. God is already there. And that's why when we think of the future, it causes anxiety. And when we think of the past, it causes depression, right? And the present is a gift because we are here. And God says, my daily grace will be sufficient for you. My daily grace. There have been so many times that I have been uncertain of not only finances in entrepreneurship, of the next step in entrepreneurship. I don't know where things are coming from, and no disrespect to anybody. But when you are a single female in entrepreneurship by yourself, you really learn to have faith. You really learn, especially when you didn't grow up like you grew up like I did. You didn't have a silver spoon, okay, that was being, fed to you, and you out here just getting it. And my props goes out to all of the people that are doing it as families, because that is such a beautiful thing. And it's not to take anything away from women that are blessed with great husbands, or husbands that are blessed with great wives, and they do it as a partnership. But my ladies, you know what I'm talking about, okay? It's a different level when you're doing it by yourself, and it's truly you and God. And that's why you have to be a good steward. And when you're going into that secret place, it's also spending time enough there so that you can know what it is that exactly that you need to do. And here's another thing that is important. When you're having belief, you got to have belief in the vision. Man, I'm going to tell y'all, it's lonely sometimes. Vision is lonely usually before it's loud. And the teacher is always silent during the test. Most people, they'll clap in the beginning. I remember when I first got into entrepreneurship, and like I mentioned to you guys, in case you're new here, right? It was through the industry of direct sales, and it was a travel club, and it was so much fun. And, they had like a BMW car bonus, and a lot of my friends were like, girl, I'm going to get in, Pam, when you get the BMW. So y'all know me. I'm a little competitive, right? Just a little competitive. So I went and I got the BMW in 2 months. And I qualified for the car bonus. And I upgraded my Maxima. I went from a Maxima to a BMW 320i drop top convertible. Because if you know, you know, every girl deserves to have a convertible, especially when you live in Florida, okay? Hard top only. But you gotta have that feeling at least one time in your life, having your hair just blow in the wind. The most beautiful thing. And guess what? How many of you think that they actually joined? How many of you think that they then believed in the vision? Exactly. Zero. Exactly. Thank you. None. Exactly. Yes, Annie. Absolutely. Zero. Zero people. And that was okay. And I'm going to tell y'all, 12 years ago, I was in my feelings a little bit. But I needed that because it put a chip on my shoulder. Now, I am a much different person, right? Thank God for spiritual development and personal development, because I understand that everybody's path is different. However, I'm always the friend that I know support is a verb. It's a verb, right? So the same people that doubted me were the same people that are still in the same exact place that I left them at 12 years ago. And that's not me knocking anybody, because seasons come and go, right? Highs and lows and all of these things. But that's why you have to have unwavering faith and belief in yourself, unwavering faith and belief into what God has called you, unwavering faith and belief in your vision, because it absolutely will get lonely. And most people, they're not going to clap for you in the beginning. There's a lot of people that were like, man, Pam, when you go on a trip, girl, when you get a passport, mind you, I already had a passport because I used to go to the Dominican Republic at least once a year, but those were staycations. How many of y'all can relate? When you go home to visit your family, this is like, if there's room on the floor, there's room for more type of deal. But I knew if the same people that said they were going to do it when I got the car, they didn't do it, they weren't going to do it. And I invited them on a trip. I invited them on the next one, and they didn't. And the same people that were not clapping, it was okay because I got to take my mom all around the world. I got to go all around the world. I got to keep checking off bucket list after bucket list item after bucket list item after bucket list item. So when people be like, oh my goodness, you're so lucky. I love to say, no, no, no. I am blessed. I am blessed because God rewards faithfulness, because God rewards obedience, because anything that I've done, I've gone all in on. I've never tippy-toed on anything that I've done because you cannot be lukewarm with your dreams. There is no guarantee of the time that we're going to be on earth. And when you understand, and I think on average, the life expectancy is 4,000 weeks on earth. Think about that for a second. Because if I gave you $4,000 right now, that could barely cover, I know that barely covers my bills for the month. That could barely cover somebody's bills for the month, especially when you have a family. That's the average life expectancy that we have here on this earth. So you think that I'm going to waste a minute of my time on anybody? Absolutely not. And I say that respectfully. And I am fired up this morning because if you are going to believe in anybody, if you're going to believe in anything, if you are going to put your money on anybody, put it on you, put it on God, because he will never fail you. And that's why I have the faith that I have. That's why, as a woman, taking care of my own bills for the last 12, like over 15, 20 years of my life, right? Since I've been 17, 18 years old, and I am 40 years old. Okay, over 20 plus years of my life, not transitioning from corporate America into entrepreneurship. It is not for the weak. However, it is for the people that are faithful. It is for the people that work. The harvest is plentiful. The laborers are often few. But that's why it is important for you to believe in that vision, because a lot of people, there's why people don't clap for you in the beginning. It's not because they don't believe in you, but they don't believe in themselves. And they're imposing their limiting beliefs upon you. They question, they doubt. Anybody ever experienced that? Type of one in the chat. Yes, I see y'all in the comments. Yes, yes, all the ones coming through. Of course, absolutely. They question, they doubt, but here's what they also do. They watch quietly. They watch quietly every single time. And that's why it's important for you to have belief in the vision. Meanwhile, staying committed to yourself and knowing that that commitment and staying committed, it's going to be 99.9% of the times without validation, without any type of external validation, without anybody being the person that's saying, yes, I believe you're going to do it. You have to believe in yourself. And you have to know that one yes from God that gave you that dream, that gave you that vision, that gave you that idea, that gave you that business, that gave you the gifts to be able to operate in the rooms. Okay? It will outweigh a million no's from man over and over and over again. And here's why it's so important that you stay committed, even when you don't have any validation, because it's going to feed momentum. And it means continuing even so when momentum feels slow. I remember right before I made my first six figures in entrepreneurship. And it was a season that I was like, man, this season, it was going. And business was increasing. My team was making money. My residual was going up. It was just, and then all of a sudden it felt stagnant. All of a sudden, I just felt the momentum stop, and it was slow. And here's the first mistake that I did. When it slowed down, I slowed down. I stopped reading the books. I've always been faithful, but I didn't have this level of faith. I wasn't abiding in God. I wasn't necessarily reading my Bible every day. It was like, sporadically. I didn't have a daily routine that I was on. And that was one of the greatest lessons that I learned, because when momentum slows down, you got to speed up, because momentum loves momentum. And the more action that you put in, God never lets hard work go unnoticed. And a lot of times I'm sitting here and I'm like, God, like, where are you? Where are you? I can't hear you. I can't hear from you. Well, you're not, God is not a genie, and you can't just think you're going to put him in a box either. So you have to understand that the teacher is always silent during the test. So what are you being tested on right now? Is it being tested on your faith? Is it being tested in your willingness to continue to persist and persevere until? Is it you being tested because there's some stuff that you got to get rid of? There's some distractions that you got to cut off. And those are questions that it's important for you to ask yourself, because it's here's why. The moment that I said, you know what, God, I trust you. I'm going to just go deeper with you. I'm going to spend more time with you. I am going to journal my thoughts. I'm going to journal my conversations with you. I'm going to journal my questions, and I'm going to journal my prayers. I'm going to journal everything. And if you guys missed that call, right, where I am showing you guys all types of journals, if you know, you know, if you're new here, I journal for everything. I have journals for church. I have journals for personal development. I have journals for everything. I have gratitude journals. I have therapy journals. I have feelings journals. I have business journals. I have journals of notes. I have journals from my life coaching. I have journals from my mentors' calls. Like, I journal because journaling is not only healing, and it's not only allowing you the time to sit still, but it also allows you to keep record. It also allows you to look back and see how far you've come. It also allows you to see how much God has done. So I understand if he did it once, he could do it again. And the moment that I did that, and I started just going to work. I started going to work. I said, you know what? I'm going to be impatient with my activity, and I'm going to be patient with my results. Because how many of us know, like, patience is not, they say patience is a virtue, but honestly speaking, it wasn't a virtue that it was easy for me. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit more patient. I'm going to trust God a little bit more. And the moment I started doing that, the results started showing up. And the same people, and when the results are quiet, when you're tempted to sometimes even pivot out of fear instead of discernment, vision always shows up before the provision. And that's why it's so important, because the moment that I did that, the results started coming in. The results started coming in. And that vision that I had, God brought it to God brought it to fruition. So when you understand that the vision show up first before the provision, but you also understand who provides your provision, okay? So Jehovah Jireh, our provider, right? When you are very aware of what it is that looks like, you're not going to move in doubt. You're not going to move in fear. You're not going to move in question. You're going to continue to persevere and that until will look different for each and every person. And it's not, please don't ever get it twisted. I'm not the person that's like giving off and I pray that I never am that person that's like, holier than thou and sanctified and all of these things. And I am a constant work in progress. Right. I love the thing that says, like, every sinner has a future and every saint has a past. Right. Faith doesn't remove fear. On the contrary, it teaches you to move with it. Faith driven entrepreneurs still feel fear, but we do it anyway. The difference is fear does not get to drive. The difference is that fear, we get the information that we need from it, not the instruction, because we understand what it is that's guiding us. It's that vision for our life, because that vision is what is going to pull you when motivation can no longer push you. And motivation, it wears off like perfume. Y'all know I love to say that. But that vision for your life, that North Star, that guiding principle, that light for your life, it is what is going to pull you when motivation can no longer push you. And it is important for you to remember that faith says, I'll move anyway. I'm not telling you to do it recklessly, because not recklessly, but obediently. You don't wait until fear disappears. you move in spite of it. And it's an interesting place when you get to that point where your faith meets hustle, discipline, and consistency. Some seasons require grit. Other seasons require grace. And your grit is that uh right? That you gonna go get it. You're like, no matter what it looks like, I'm going to get it. Wisdom is knowing which one you need and not confusing the two. A lot of times, and I remember this in my entrepreneurial journey, when I remember just hitting that place that I was just like, I'm hustling, like nothing's happening. Because people could feel like you just looking at them like a dollar sign. So I had to sit with myself and I was like, is it time? God, are you telling me I got to go back to work? Are you telling me that this dream that you put in my heart is not it? Or is it that you're doing your best to teach me something? Is there something that I need to learn? Is there something that I need to become better? Is what is it that you're doing in me so that I can be better for you, so that I can show up as a better businesswoman, so that I can show up as a better community builder? Because you are confusing sometime hustle for obedience. And grit is the discipline to keep showing up even when it's hard. Grace is the wisdom to actually stay grounded while you do. And there was times that I was just like, forget them people. They didn't believe in me. I'm gonna show them. And this was like, no. God had to come into my heart because he had to check my heart posture. There was things that it was just like, you're not doing it for them. Just like you didn't do it, you did it without their validation, just like you did it without their approval. You're not winning so that you can do it for anybody else. You're winning because that is your birthright. You're winning so you can break generational curses of poverty. You're winning so that you can inspire people, so that you can show people that you are a vessel for change, that you can show people they too can live their wildest dreams, so that you can make an impact. And the moment that I did that, there was no longer a money goal, it was a vision goal. And the money started coming because that is just a byproduct of the bigger picture. The mission has to be bigger. And that is why your faith, it has to be stronger than anything. Because when you do things and you're just doing it and you're just in the grid and you're just doing it and doing it and do it, grace without grit leads to stagnation. And that is why faith-driven entrepreneurship requires both. You work hard, you stay disciplined, but you don't destroy yourself in the process. You trust God and say, you know what? I'm going to stay obedient and still do the work. Because when you're hustling without faith, it leads to burnout. And there was seasons of my life that I felt burnt out and I was weary. And I was like, what is going on? Is it something outside, and you get into this comparison game. And that's why they say comparison is the thief of all joy. But you got to know that your plan, God has a perfect plan for you. God has a perfect story for you where you are the main character of that story. If they did a documentary on your life right now, what would that look like? Are you going to be the main character of your story? Or are you letting other people's opinions rob you of your joy? Are you letting other people's success blind you of what's possible for you? Rob you of what it is that you need to be focusing on, robbing you of being a good steward, robbing you of your faith, robbing you of the moments along the journey, of the joy along the journey, of the person you're becoming in the process of the journey. And that is why that when you stay obedient, when you trust God fully and you just still do the work, it is incredible what you continuously see the blessings. Last night, as I'm wrapping up my evening, right, I get a phone call from one of the alumni. in the alumni committee from my high school, my alma mater. Shout out to Miramar High School Patriots. And she's like, hey, I thought of you because we're having career day in April and we would love for you to come and, show these kids what's possible. And for a moment, I was just like, God, thank you. Thank you. Thank you that my name is in conversations that I am not a part of. Thank you for including my name in rooms that I'm not present in. Thank you for just thinking of me. And when you start to see that your faithfulness is always rewarded, you're not going to worry about where you're at. You're not going to worry about where it is that you're not where it is that you want to be at. You're not going to worry about other people. You're not going to worry about the failures because you're failing forward. You're not going to worry about the mistakes because mistakes make money and make memories. You're not going to worry about the things of your past because you are so deeply grateful for the present. You're so deeply excited for where it is that you're going, for what it is that God is doing in you, for what it is that God is doing through you. And that's why faith is so important, because when you have faith without any discipline too, it also leads to frustration. That's why both matter just as much. Consistency matters more than intensity. And I had to learn that the hard way, because there was times that I'm like, I'm going to do 20 calls today, and I am going to make sure that I am putting my business opportunity in front of at least 20 people a day, at least, because if I fall short of 20, I'll at least do 10 a day. And guess what that happened? I got burnt out. I was frustrated because it was too much. It was too intense. It was too intense. Where was I leaving room for my mental health? Where was I leaving room to take care of my spirit? Where was I leaving room to take care of Pam? And I needed to. And that's when I realized that daily obedience mattered more than occasional effort. And that is why consistency matters more than intensity. God honors diligence, showing up over and over and over again when you're tired, when it hurts, when you don't want to. And sometimes when it feels heavy, sometimes when your body is sore from the workout and you got a meeting right after, if you know, you know, right? Sometimes when you're dealing with things of your own adversity and you got to go talk on TV about adversity, man, God has a funny sense of humor. Doing the work even when it's boring sometimes. And this is why faith doesn't excuse you from structure. It doesn't excuse you from consistency. It doesn't excuse you from discipline. It doesn't excuse you from stewardship. On the contrary, it calls you to it. And I'm going to tell you another way that in the last season, I have become a greater steward. My systems. Systems are stewardship, not a lack of faith. Because trying to do everything yourself isn't faith, it's pressure. You hear me say often, systems stand for saving yourself some time, energy, and money. But systems don't mean that you're trusting God less. They mean that you're stewarding the vision wisely, because support protects your focus. Delegating what drains you does not deter you. On the contrary, it detains you from doing the things that soak up your energy, that drain your energy. And it makes room for you to focus on the things that you're actually great at. And that is why support protects your focus and structure protects your energy. It protects your calling. It protects your joy. And I've learned that systems, even digital ones, allow me to stay in my zone, and of not only of doing all of the things, but it allows me to stay in my zone of stewardship. It allows me to stay in my zone of leadership instead of drowning sometimes like I used to in details. Instead of drowning sometimes in those tasks that I'm just like, oh my goodness, I don't need to do this. I know I need to do this, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to. And support doesn't replace leadership. It creates space for it. So if you're that person that's like, man, Pam, I need help in these areas, like, I schedule a call, right? I always open up, especially during the beginning of the year, and I know that we're wrapping up the first month of 2026, and so many people are like, man, I had the same fire you talking about. I had it at the beginning of the year. And now I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know what it went, where it went to. Well, let's book a call. DM me the word coach. I'll be more than happy to set up a complimentary strategy call for you guys, with you guys, and we'll see where that leads to. But I do believe that commitment always lasts longer in the context of the right community. And remember that faith isn't just what you believe, it's what you do consistently. It's how you show up each and every single day. It's investing in growth before you see the profit. It's asking for help instead of isolating. It's building with integrity. It's staying aligned even when you think it's costing you. Entrepreneurship requires faith at every level: faith in God, faith in yourself, faith in the vision that you want Him to bring to fruition, and the discipline to execute it. And remember, faith does not replace the work, it fuels it. It fuels you to operate in your gifts and allow God to do only what it is that He can do. And remember, whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. Where attention goes, energy flows, and what you focus on expands. Choose wisely. Breakfast has been served. As always, it is an honor, pleasure, and privilege to serve you. Great day, and God bless. My pleasure, ladies. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all.